Welcome to our video about the fascinating world of Pokemon and their placement on the Tree of Life. Today we take a closer look at Pinsir and its connection to all butterfly Pokemon. Ready? Let's go. Aparaglossata is a clade of insects that includes all modern holometabolous insects except for the Hymenoptera. The clade is named after one of its most distinctive shared traits, the absence of paraglossy. Other characteristic features of this group include a modified ovipositor and a reduced number of Malpighian tubules. The larval ground plan of Aparaglossata was prognathes, with forward-facing mouthparts, had well-developed stemata, lateral eyes, and an H-shaped tentorium, internal head support structure. Beetles, Coleoptera, with over 380,000 described species across 179 families, represent the largest order within the class of insects, and hundreds of new species are still described annually. They are found on every continent except Antarctica. Around 8,000 species occur in Central Europe, of which approximately 7,000 are found in Germany. The oldest known beetle fossils date back to the Permian period, about 265 million years ago. The body structure of beetles differs from that of other insects, as the apparent three-part segmentation does not correspond to the head, thorax, and abdomen. Instead, the second visible section consists only of the prothorax, with only the pronotum visible on the dorsal side. The remaining two thoracic segments form a unit with the abdomen and are covered by the hardened first pair of wings, the elytra. With a length of about 170 millimeters, the giant longhorn beetle, Titanus giganteus from Brazil, is the largest beetle species. Goliath beetles, weighing up to 100 grams, are among the heaviest insects in existence. In Europe, beetle sizes range from approximately 0.5 to 75 millimeters, with the stag beetle, Lucanus cervus, being the largest species in Central Europe. The word beetle has Germanic linguistic roots. As early as the 9th century, the word chur appears, followed by chefuar in the 10th century, and later chewov, chewer, and kewer. These terms originally referred not to beetles, but to grasshoppers. From the 13th century, the word kever is documented, related to kiefer, jaw, both derived from a root meaning to chew, gnaw. Only in subsequent centuries did the meaning of kefer shift from grasshopper larva to beetle. The Germanic peoples also used the word webula for beetles. In the 11th century, the term webel appears, followed by webel in the next century, which survives in English as weevil for snout beetles, and in dialectal terms like perdsweevil for horse beetles. Early distinctions such as scarenwiffle and tordweifel for dung beetles are found, and by the 15th century, various beetle families were already linguistically differentiated. The scientific name Coleoptera comes from ancient Greek koleos, referred to the leather sheath into which a sword was placed, and pteron means wing. The leathery appearance of beetle elytra, which partially cover the hind wings, inspired the name. The body shape of adult beetles, imagines, is highly diverse, ranging from very long and slender to compact and short forms. Shapes vary from flat to highly rounded. These forms reflect adaptations to each species' lifestyle. Beetles living under loose bark are always flat. Aquatic species, especially fast swimmers, have streamlined bodies. Climbing beetles that escape danger by dropping are typically round. Surface textures also vary widely, from smooth and shiny to heavily structured with wrinkles, pits, grooves, and bumps. A key evolutionary factor in body shape development, especially in bizarrely shaped species, is camouflage against predators. Beetle anatomy follows the basic insect blueprint. The body consists of three sections: head, caput, thorax, and abdomen. However, the visible segmentation in beetles does not correspond directly to these regions. The second visible section includes only the first thoracic segment. The second and third thoracic segments form a unit with the abdomen, covered by the elytra. The elytra are the first heavily sclerotized pair of wings that protect the second pair. On the ventral side, the rear thoracic segments extend beyond the first abdominal segments, forming a visual unit with the abdomen. Beetles, with few exceptions, have a strongly sclerotized exoskeleton involving chitin. Like all insects, they possess 6 legs and 2 antennae, which vary greatly in form across species. Beetles belong to the group of insects with chewing mouthparts. They have a ladder-like nervous system, modified so that no ganglia are present in the abdomen. Their circulatory system is open and includes a tubular heart. The simple digestive tract with Malpighian tubules and the tracheal system for respiration also follow the general insect plan. However, due to the long evolutionary history of beetles, there are deviations from this basic structure in nearly all areas of beetle anatomy. The body size of beetles is limited at the upper end by the fact that air must be transported to the organs via the tracheal system. As a result, the largest beetles tend to be sluggish. At the lower end, size is only constrained by the need to maintain a functional and complex body structure. Species from the featherwing beetles, Tilidae, and minute beetles, Chlambidae, families are among the smallest beetles, and indeed among the smallest insects overall. Some species measure less than 0.5 millimeters in length. Fire-colored beetles, Pyrocroidae, and blister beetles, Meloidae, are families that typically include relatively large species. However, the largest beetles worldwide belong to the longhorn beetles, Cyrambicidae, and flower beetles, Cydoniinae. Within these families, there are significant variations in length. The smallest longhorn beetle is only about 3 millimeters long, while the giant longhorn beetle, Titanus giganteus, reaches up to 170 millimeters, making it the largest known beetle species. Even within a single species, body size can vary considerably. For example, the musk beetle ranges in length from 13 to 34 millimeters. Since adult beetles, imagines, no longer grow, such size differences are solely due to varying environmental conditions during the larval stages. Occasionally, though rarely, there are also significant size differences between males and females of the same species. Notably, larger males are found in stag beetles, where males engage in territorial battles. However, in most cases, females are the larger sex. The coloration of beetles is as diverse as their body shapes. While most beetles are dark or brown-toned, many species feature patterned, brightly colored, or metallic-looking bodies. Coloration is caused either by pigmentation or structural coloration. The typically metallic sheen is produced by physical phenomena such as interference or scattering. This often occurs in thin layered structures like hairs, seta, scales, or in specialized layering of parallel chitin fibers. In such cases, the coloration of hairs and scales often masks the base color. Patterns can emerge when the base color is visible in areas without hairs or scales. As a result, older beetles, whose hair covering may have worn off, often look different from freshly emerged individuals. At the same time, newly emerged beetles are usually not fully colored during the first few hours. In many species, males and females differ in coloration, sexual dichromatism. Some beetle species exhibit strikingly consistent patterns, while others show high variability. For example, certain ladybird beetle species, Coccinellidae, produce hundreds of different pattern and color variants. These individuals were once given separate aberration names and treated as distinct systematic groups, but such classifications are now scientifically outdated and largely no longer in use. At the other extreme, species within the genus Trichos, checkered beetles, or Clitus, longhorn beetles, display nearly identical patterns across different species. Coloration often plays a crucial role in camouflage and defense. The head is the center of the nervous system in animals. It contains the two main concentrations of nerve cells, the supraesophageal ganglion and the subesophageal ganglion, which together are referred to as the brain. Many sensory organs are also located in the head, though not all. The most important components are compound eyes, antennae, and mouthparts. The head capsule, which protects the brain, consists of an acron, head lobe, and 6 fused segments. Depending on the species, the shape of the head can vary greatly, from round to angular, and from short to extremely elongated. In some species, the head may be extended forward by a large head shield. Beetles possess biting chewing mouthparts. These represent the most primitive form of insect mouthparts and still show a resemblance to the head appendages of crustaceans. Nevertheless, they are highly specialized according to dietary habits. The mouthparts consist of paired mandibles, upper jaws, paired maxillae, lower jaws, and an unpaired labium, lower lip. The labium includes a basal piece that functions as the lower lip, followed by the unpaired tongue, glossa, and 2 lateral lobes, paraglossae. The mouthparts are capped above by the labrum, upper lip, an unpaired plate. The mandibles are the primary tools for acquiring food. Herbivorous beetles use them to cut and shred plant material, while predatory beetles use their sharp mandibles to seize, hold, and dismember prey into edible portions. A few species cannot use their mandibles for feeding. For example, in male stag beetles, the mandibles are so enlarged that they are useless for eating, and instead serve as weapons for fighting rival males and displaying dominance. Taste-sensitive palps are located on both the maxillae and the labium. Beetle antennae originate from the head and the position of their insertion point, between or in front of the eyes, within or behind the base of the mandibles, etc., often plays a role in identification keys. Like all insects, beetle antennae are structured as flagellate antennae, with only the basal segment, scapus, containing muscles. The next segment, the pedicel, along with the flagellum, is movable relative to the scapus. Depending on the family, antennae consist of 5 to 12 segments, though most commonly 10 or 11. Their shapes vary widely. In some families, males have differently shaped antennae, usually larger and longer than females. Basic types include filiform, thread-like, as in ground beetles, clubbed at the end, as in weevils, fan-shaped, as in May beetles, comb-shaped, as in stag beetles. An antenna is called geniculate if it is angled. Numerous intermediate forms exist between these basic types. The insertion point and structure of the antenna are often characteristic of a particular family or taxonomic group. Antennae bear olfactory organs for smelling, but also serve as tactile organs for orientation. In some families, they are used to grasp the mating partner during copulation. Beetle eyes are compound eyes composed of individual units called ommatidia. In addition to the basic apposition eye, where each ommatidium is optically isolated from its neighbors, there are also superposition eyes, especially in crepuscular and nocturnal beetles. In superposition eyes, ommatidia are not optically isolated, allowing light rays to enter neighboring units and stimulate the rhabdoms, which transmit visual signals to the optic nerve. This enables vision in low light and significantly increases perceived brightness, though at the expense of visual sharpness. At higher light intensities, pigment cells can shift, functionally converting the eye back into an apposition type. Beetle eyes are not always perfectly round. They are often kidney-shaped and positioned around the base of the antennae. In extreme cases, such as in many longhorn beetles, these kidney halves are separated. A special case is found in whirligig beetles, Gyrinidae, which live in water. Their eye halves are separated, with the upper halves forming a pair of eyes above the water surface and the lower halves forming a pair below. This allows them to see both above and below water simultaneously, with each pair adapted to the differing light intensities, wavelengths, and refractive indices of air and water. A few beetle families, such as skin beetles, Dermestidae, have only simple ocelli, point eyes, similar to those found in beetle larvae. Other cave-dwelling species have completely reduced eyes. These include several ground beetle, Carabidae, species that are endemic to individual caves, such as the Segeberg cave beetle from the family of spherical fungus beetles. The thorax of beetles consists of 3 parts: the prothorax, mesothorax, and metathorax. From above, only the first section, the prothorax, is visible, which is covered by the pronotum, scutum. The other 2 thoracic segments are hidden beneath the elytra, hardened forewings, except for a small portion of the mesothorax. This small shield, scutellum if present at all, appears as a tiny triangle between the elytra at their base. From below, all 3 thoracic segments are visible, though not easily distinguishable. They are composed of several sclerotized chitin plates that may be shifted relative to one another, so that plates belonging to the prothorax may lie between those of the mesothorax. Notably, the plates of the metathorax extend at least to the base of the abdomen, making the boundary between thorax and abdomen difficult to discern. As a result, the mesothorax and metathorax may appear to be part of the abdomen. Each thoracic segment bears a pair of legs, and the rear 2 segments also bear the 2 pairs of wings. The legs follow the basic segmentation found in other insects. Each leg consists of a coxa, hip, trochanter, femur, thigh, tibia, shin, and a tarsus, foot, composed of 2 to 5 segments, with the final tarsal segment ending in claws. The number of tarsal segments is used to classify beetle families. For example, 5 to 5-4 indicates that the hind legs have 4 tarsal segments, while the other legs have 5. Tarsal segments and other leg parts can vary greatly in length and shape. Some segments may be so small that they are hidden within the preceding segment, such as the foretarsal segment in longhorn beetles, Cerambicidae. Femora are often broadened. In the swollen-thighed beetle, Eudemera nobilis, they are so enlarged that they appear almost spherical. Beetle legs are specialized depending on species and function. They may be adapted for running, jumping, swimming, or digging. The Australian tiger beetle, Cicindela hudsoni, reaches a top running speed of up to 2.5 meters per second, a record among insects. Great diving beetles, Dytiscus marginalis, can swim at speeds of up to 0.5 meters per second using their powerful swimming legs. As in all insects, beetle joints are exposed to environmental influences and do not glide on a thin film of synovial fluid. Studies on the darkling beetle, Zophobus morio, have examined the structure and function of these unencapsulated joints. Scanning electron microscopy reveals that the contact surfaces are densely covered with pores only 1 micrometer deep. This water-repellent surface architecture, which also has self-cleaning properties, is known as the lotus effect. Additionally, the surface produces waxy, protein-rich substances that act as lubricants, minimizing friction similarly to a PTFE coating. The defining difference between beetles and other insects lies in their wing structure. In beetles, the first pair of wings is distinctly different from the second. The forewings, elytra, which originate from the middle thoracic segment, are heavily sclerotized and primarily serve to cover and protect the intricately folded hindwings and the abdomen. During flight, the elytra are typically angled forward to allow the hindwings to unfold. When closed, the inner edges of the elytra form the wing seam, though they often gape toward the rear. In most beetles, the elytra are rigid. In some, such as weevils, they are extremely hard, while in soft-bodied beetles, they are quite flexible. The second pair of wings, elly, originates from the rear thoracic segment and, like in most flying insects, is membranous. These hindwings are reinforced by stabilizing veins and otherwise thin and flexible. They unfold just before takeoff and are generally much larger than the elytra. After flight, they are typically folded back under the elytra with the help of the hind legs. The structure of beetle wings varies greatly. The elytra, hardened forewings, can differ in length and may either completely or mostly cover the abdomen, or, as in the case of rove beetles, leave the abdomen entirely exposed. In some species, such as many ground beetles, Carabidae, the 2 elytra are fused together. These species typically have reduced or absent hindwings. The surface of the elytra can also vary significantly. There are smooth, scaled, hairy, and textured elytra. The abdomen consists of several segments, usually 8 or 9 visible ones. The rearmost abdominal segments are hidden inside the body. The visible segments are made up of 2 shell-like parts, the tergite on the back and the sternite on the underside. These 2 parts are connected laterally, parallel to the body's longitudinal axis, by pleurites. The individual segments are joined by segmental membranes, making the abdomen movable, unlike the rigid anterior body sections. However, its mobility is relatively limited compared to most other insects. In some species, such as those in the genus Dytiscus, diving beetles, Dyticidae, the abdomen is immobile. Rove beetles, on the other hand, can move their abdomen quite flexibly. In a defensive posture, they raise the tip of the abdomen steeply upward, making themselves appear significantly larger. The last abdominal segments contain the reproductive organs. In vertebrates, the blood is responsible for transporting respiratory gases and nutrients. In beetles, as in insects generally, these functions are carried out by 2 separate systems. The body fluid responsible for nutrient transport is called hemolymph. It does not flow through vessels, but rather through spaces and body cavities, bathing the beetle's organs. Hemolymph contains no hemoglobin and may be colorless, yellow, or occasionally red or green. The only blood vessels are a short aorta and a tubular heart located in the upper part of the abdomen. The heart has 8 pairs of lateral openings, ostia, corresponding to the number of abdominal segments through which the hemolymph is drawn into the heart. The heart connects to the aorta, and the hemolymph is pumped from the heart to the head via this vessel. Transport occurs through a system of valve-like flaps. However, Oxygen and carbon dioxide are not transported by the hemolymph. Gas exchange occurs via trachea, a highly branched system of tubes that supply all organs with oxygen. Oxygen enters the body through lateral openings, spiracles, which can be clearly observed in the field cockchafer, Melilantha melilantha, when its abdomen performs noticeable pumping movements before takeoff. The maximum transport distance in this respiratory system is limited, which is one reason why beetles and insects in general are restricted in their potential body size. The heart beats slowly. For example, in the stag beetle, Lucanus cervus, it beats about 16 times per minute. The nervous system is located on the ventral side of beetles, which is why it is also called the ventral nerve cord. It deviates more or less from the typical insect structure and shows remarkable diversity within the order. The 8 abdominal ganglia are sometimes shifted into the thoracic region. Depending on the species, all 8 abdominal ganglia may remain separate, as in Lycidae, following the basic plan of Pterygoda, or they may fuse into a compact mass along with the 3 thoracic ganglia, as in some weevils. The number of separate ganglia varies. For example, from 2 to 10 in ground beetles, from 1 to 5 in weevils, and from 2 to 7 in leaf beetles. The brain consists of a subesophageal ganglion, a supraesophageal ganglion, and an additional ganglion. It is significantly smaller than the thoracic ganglion and lies either below or above the esophagus. The brain and thoracic ganglion are functionally independent, meaning the body can remain largely operational for a time, even after the brain is lost. The digestive system consists of a digestive tract that can be subdivided differently across beetle families. In carnivorous species, it is short, while in herbivorous beetles, it can reach up to 10 times the body length. Food passes from the pharynx through the esophagus into the stomach. The following midgut has a long villous inner surface in its anterior section and a short villous surface in the posterior section. The hindgut is divided into the small intestine, ileus, and large intestine, rectum, where nutrients are absorbed into the blood. Metabolic waste products are also absorbed here and in the 2 tubular kidneys, Malpighian tubules, and excreted through the anus. In some beetles, such as bombardier beetles, Brachynenae, there are glands in the rectum whose secretions can be used for defense, defensive secretions. Beetles inhabit nearly every habitat on Earth, and there is virtually no organic food source that is not exploited by some beetle species. Larvae often feed very differently from adult beetles. The dietary range of individual species also varies widely. Among herbivorous beetles, diets range from polyphagous species that consume a wide variety of food sources to monophagous species that feed on only one specific plant species. Numerous specializations occur. There are wood eaters, xylophages, decay feeders that consume decomposing plant material, saprophages, and among them, those specialized in dead wood, saproxylophages. Most herbivores feed on leaves, flowers, seeds, roots, or stems of plants. Predatory families, such as ground beetles, Carabidae, have a broad dietary spectrum. In addition to insects, other arthropods, worms, snails, and caterpillars, these beetles may also consume vertebrates like tadpoles or small fish when available. Only a few beetles chew their prey before eating. Most inject digestive enzymes to liquefy the food and then ingest it. This is known as extra-intestinal digestion. Some predators also consume plant-based foods such as seeds or pollen. In addition to these 2 main feeding types, there are 2 ecologically important groups, coprophages and necrophages. Coprophages feed on feces, such as dung beetles, Geotruppidae, while necrophages feed on carrion, such as carrion beetles, Sylphidae. These species help recycle waste and dead organisms back into the food chain. There are also fungus eaters, mycophages, such as tree fungus beetles, Mycetophagidae, and species that feed on materials like leather, feathers, tendons, hair, and dry skin. For example, skin beetles, Dermastidae. Some inorganic substances, such as minerals, are also absorbed directly. In addition to nutrients, beetles, like all living organisms, depend on water. Aquatic beetles are often capable flyers, allowing them to colonize new habitats if their current environment dries out. They also fly to explore new habitats regardless of immediate threats. Besides truly aquatic beetles like diving beetles, Dyticidae, there are species that require high humidity and are typically found near bodies of water, hygrophilous species. Others depend on moisture but live in dry, hot environments. Species living in desert regions, such as certain darkling beetles, Tenebrionidae, are adapted to extreme dryness. They are nocturnal and omnivorous, as limited food availability requires dietary flexibility. These beetles can extract moisture from their food and also collect water by capturing condensation on their raised legs. Some beetle larvae can survive without directly taking in water. Species that live in very dry wood, such as the common furniture beetle, Anobium punctatum, digest the consumed wood with the help of bacteria. The energy gained from this process is stored as fat, from which they can chemically extract water. All beetles breathe through tracheae and absorb oxygen this way. For aquatic beetles, this presents an additional challenge not faced by terrestrial species. They must access oxygen for respiration, as they cannot absorb it directly from water. There are only a few exceptions, such as the larvae of whirligig beetles, Gyronidae, which can absorb oxygen directly from water using specialized organs called tracheal gills. Tracheal gills are never found in adult beetles. The adults of aquatic beetle species and the larvae of most families have developed various methods for oxygen intake. Most species surface to collect air and carry a bubble with them during dives. Some store the air between their elytra and abdomen, like the great diving beetle, Dytiscus marginalis. Others pump air onto their underside through a channel formed by specially shaped antennae, as seen in water scavenger beetles, Hydrophilidae, where the air is held in place by hairs. Some small beetles, such as those in the genus Hyphiphedrus, family Dyticidae, carry their air supply as a bubble at the end of the abdomen. This is only possible if the body repels water, which is achieved either through fine hair or a fatty layer. Riffle beetles, Elmidae and Dryopidae, are plastron breathers and do not need to surface for air. Most diving beetles have a body structure that is partly modified and adapted to their breathing technique. One challenge of transporting oxygen is that the carried air creates buoyancy, requiring beetles to expend significant energy to swim. Therefore, larger beetles tend to live in densely vegetated waters and often cling to aquatic plants. Some aquatic leaf beetles, Chrysomelidae, such as those in the genus Macroples, do not struggle with buoyancy. They obtain oxygen directly from bubbles released by aquatic plants. Their larvae also do not need to surface to breathe. Eggs are laid in the stems of aquatic plants, and the emerging larvae either live inside the plant and extract oxygen from its vascular tissue, or attach externally to these tissues using the tip of their abdomen. Pupae of the genus Donatia do the same. However, most aquatic beetles pupate on land. According to the basic insect body plan, beetles have two pairs of wings, but only the hind pair, the alae, is suitable for flight. The front pair is hardened and forms the protective elytra. Most beetles can fly to varying degrees. Species like tiger beetles, Cicindolinae, are highly agile, excellent flyers, and can reach speeds of up to 8 meters per second. Similarly, some aquatic beetles, such as the great silver water beetle, Hydrophilus piscius, can fly long distances to colonize new water bodies, though they appear clumsy and less agile over short distances. Ladybugs are also strong flyers, capable of 75 to 91 wing beats per second. Not all beetles have developed hind wings. Most large ground beetles in the genus Carabus, for example, lack functional hind wings, and their elytra are fused along the wing seam. At takeoff, beetles first lift their elytra, which serve no function during flight, and unfold the membranous hind wings that were previously folded along the abdomen. The only exception is the flower beetles, Satyniinae, whose elytra remain closed during flight. Their wings are extended and retracted through a lateral opening in the elytra. After flight, the hind wings are usually folded back under the elytra with the help of the hind legs, a process that can take several seconds. In addition to short-distance flights, typically undertaken in search of food or mates, many beetles are capable of covering long distances. They often use wind currents to aid their travel, or rely on them so heavily that they can make only minor course corrections. Beetles undertake such flights to find suitable overwintering sites, as seen in some ladybird species, or because food has become scarce in their current habitat, or to expand into new environments. In the first two cases, beetles may gather in massive swarms. Ladybird swarms consisting of millions of individuals have been observed. They navigate using visual cues and climatic factors to reach their destination. A classic example of a species frequently seeking new habitats is the great diving beetle, Dytiscus marginalis. This species leaves its aquatic habitat not only when water becomes scarce, but also under favorable conditions. It flies at night and navigates visually. Reflected moonlight on glass surfaces, such as greenhouses, can mislead the beetles into landing on what they perceive as water. Some beetle species can produce sounds by rubbing body parts together. In addition to many longhorn beetles, Cerambycidae, various leaf beetles, Chrysomelidae, such as the lily beetle, Lilioceras lilii, produce chirping sounds by rubbing the rear edge of their elytra against the abdomen. Dung beetles of the genus Geotrupes generate sounds by rubbing their abdomen against the elytra. There are many other ways to produce sound, including friction between the vertex and pronotum, between the throat and prothorax, between the prothorax and mesothorax, and between the legs and abdomen or elytra. Beyond sound production for deterring predators, the death watch beetle, Zestobium rufovillosum, uses tapping signals to locate mates within wooden tunnel systems. These beetles rapidly strike the wood with their head and pronotum. Some beetle species from two subfamilies, tiger beetles and giant beetles, have developed tympanal organs resembling eardrums to detect the ultrasonic echolocation calls of hunting bats. Certain beetles possess the ability to produce light, bioluminescence, including fireflies, Lamparidae. Each species emits specific light signals, typically with males flying and glowing to attract attention, or flightless females glowing to signal their presence. Light organs are located on the underside of the abdomen and originally evolved from fat bodies. They consist of a layer of bright, light-producing cells and a darker inner layer that acts as a reflector. The light is generated through the chemical reaction of luciferin with ATP and oxygen, catalyzed by the enzyme luciferase. Up to 95% of the energy released is emitted as light, with only a small portion lost as heat. Even the larvae or eggs of some species can glow in this way. The sense of smell is extremely important in beetles, and in some species it is highly developed. This is especially noticeable in males of certain species, which have large, comb-like antennae to detect pheromones released by females. However, many species rely on chance to find a mate. These beetles seek locations where encounters with conspecifics are likely, such as yellow flowers favored by certain jewel beetles, Buprestidae. Generally, beetles have poor vision, and even at close range, recognizing a mate is difficult. As a result, species that do not rely on scent often experience mismating, mistaking other beetles, such as those also sitting on yellow flowers, for their own kind. Males typically do not fight directly over females, but rather over courtship sites. These may be suitable egg-laying spots, such as pine stumps for the timberman beetle, Acanthothocinus aedalis, or gathering places like yellow flowers. The most well-known example of rival combat in Europe is the stag beetle, Lucanus cervus. Males are attracted by female pheromones. When two males encounter a female simultaneously, they attempt to throw their opponent off the branch using their greatly enlarged mandibles, which serve exclusively for combat. The winner earns the right to mate. Beetle eggs are relatively small compared to the size of the adult. Individually, they are difficult to detect, but since they are often laid in groups or clusters, and sometimes brightly colored, they can be more noticeable. Egg shapes vary widely: round, oval, cylindrical, sausage-shaped, spindle-shaped, or conical. They are usually white or pale, but many other colors exist. For example, the eggs of most ladybird species, Coccinellidae, are yellow to orange. Depending on the species, beetles may lay only a few eggs or well over 1,000, either singly or in clusters of varying sizes. Parental care among beetle families varies greatly. In most cases, it ends with the placement of eggs where the emerging larvae will find food. Eggs are either laid directly on the appropriate host plants or placed near the larval food source. For example, ladybird eggs near aphid colonies. In the simplest scenario, adult beetles and larvae share the same diet, so females don't need to search for specific food sources for their offspring. In more complex cases, where adults and larvae feed differently, females must locate specific substrates, such as wood from particular trees, even if they themselves feed on pollen. Additionally, some females hide their eggs, prepare the laying site or insert them directly into plant tissue using ovipositors. For instance, the small poplar borer, Saperda populnea, gnaws at bark to induce gall formation, which then serves as food for the larva. Other beetles, like many leaf rollers, Atalabidae, cut and fold leaves to create protective shelters for their larvae. Similarly, many closely related weevils, Curculionidae, insert their eggs into plant-to-plant parts or fruits, where the larvae then develop. Some beetles outsource parental care to other species. The cuckoo weevil, Laciorhynchites sericius, waits until the oak leaf roller, Atelibus nitens, finishes rolling a leaf, then adds its own egg to the roll. Water beetles, Hydrophilidae, construct small floating egg cases that resemble boats, complete with a chimney-like extension to ensure oxygen supply even if submerged. Because beetles, especially their larvae, occupy low positions in the food chain, they have evolved various strategies to protect themselves from predators. The more effective these defenses are, and the more offspring survive to reproduce, the fewer eggs need to be laid. Species that are avoided by predators or are hard to detect typically lay fewer eggs than those that rely solely on high numbers. The simplest form of protection is passive, such as camouflage. Many leaf beetles, Chrysomelidae, are green and blend into foliage. Others are brightly colored and use warning coloration to signal toxicity, like ladybirds, Coccinellidae, which contain toxic alkaloids, or mimic dangerous animals, mimicry, such as wasp beetles, Plagionotus, family Cerambicidae, which resemble wasps but are harmless. Beyond passive methods, some beetles have developed more advanced defenses. Certain species, especially larvae, cover themselves with feces, dust, or soil for protection. For example, tortoise beetle larvae, Cassidini, use such coverings extensively. The larvae of the large ant-loving beetle, Lomicusa strumosa, which live in ant nests, spend their entire development inside a fecal shell, exposing only their head. Active defense begins with thanatosis, playing dead, often accompanied by reflex bleeding, a drop of hemolymph that is toxic or foul-smelling. Ladybirds use this to deter predators that avoid decaying prey. Click beetles, Elateridae, possess a spring-loaded mechanism that allows them to snap upright like a coiled spring, startling attackers and helping them flip over if they land on their backs. Another defense method includes pinching or biting with mandibles and spraying digestive fluids. Many ground beetles, Carabidae, use this technique and can also release foul-smelling substances. The most aggressive form of self-defense is found in bombardier beetles, Brachynae. They eject irritating and smelly gases at attackers with high pressure from two abdominal tubes. The beetles produce this explosive mixture by combining two reactive chemicals, hydroquinone and hydrogen peroxide. Upon attack, they add the enzymes catalase and peroxidase in a reaction chamber to accelerate the process. These catalysts convert hydroquinone into quinone and hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen. The result is a violent chemical reaction that generates heat and pressure, ejecting a caustic gas mixture at around 100 degrees Celsius with an audible pop directly into the face of the attacker. That's it for now. In the next episode, we still take a closer look at Pinsir and its surprising connection to all butterfly Pokemon, as we really need to deep dive into the family feel. Free to subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and check in next time.